Back in 2020, I made a video titled "My Opinion is the Only One That Matters," where I shined a spotlight on Missanthropony's numerous crash-outs over The Last of Us Part 2, Star Wars The Last Jedi, and The Nostalgia Critic. If you watched that video, then you know that Missanthropony apologized for his actions and vowed to be a better person. He ended up deleting his channel a few months after that video came out. He then returned with a new channel called Zaid Magenta, and that didn't turn out so well, and he ended up deleting that channel. He then teamed up with the now disgraced YouTube commentator Just a Robot and uploaded some videos onto his channel, and when that partnership went sour, he decided to strike out on his own yet again, which is why he's returned with a new channel called Diaz Station. Unlike Marco Diaz, who fights against the forces of evil alongside his best friend and eventual girlfriend, Star Butterfly, this Diaz truly believes that anyone that disagrees with him is a force of evil, and nowhere is that mentality more evident than this unnecessary jab in his video about the overabundance of celebrity voice actors in animated movies.
No one in their right mind is gonna rush over to a movie theater and pay money to see Rihanna as Smurfette. Maybe this retard, but not the rest of us.
The tweet that you just saw on screen was from an account called Out of Context Simpsons Couch Gags, which is run by Lorcan the Hedgehog. Mapp decided to call Lorcan a retard because he genuinely liked the newest Smurfs movie. I want you to let that sink in for a minute. He called him a retard because he liked the newest Smurfs movie. I don't think I even need to say how utterly pathetic that is. Not only was that jab completely unnecessary, it was also completely irrelevant to the rest of his video, which was actually quite good. He is right that Hollywood studios are overly reliant on celebrity voice actors for animated films. A lot of the points he made were good, and I found that his critiques were valid. But he decided to completely ruin it with the most trivial and insignificant nonsense that I have ever seen. Now, you're probably wondering why he decided to call out a random Twitter user over something so trivial and insignificant. Well, as it turns out, these two have some history, and it's just as petty and stupid as you think it is. Mapp claimed that Lorcan harassed him over Zombie Simpsons, which is simply not true. Lorcan called out Mapp for unnecessarily insulting someone because they liked the modern incarnation of The Simpsons, and then he told everybody to not be like him, which is incredibly sound advice that every content creator should abide by. If this is considered harassment, then we need to change the definition of the word harassment, because what Lorcan did in this particular instance is nowhere near harassment. And then he claimed that Lorcan called him a Trump supporter, which is also not true. While Lorcan has posted plenty of tweets about Donald Trump, he never specifically called Missanthropony a Trump supporter, so I have no clue where he got that idea from. If I had to guess, he most likely made it up in order to paint Lorcan in the worst possible light over The Simpsons, of all things. And by the way, he's not a consumerist fandom brat, and the reason I say this is because he was not defending the quality of modern Simpsons episodes. If there was ever a textbook example of a content creator completely missing the point of why they were being criticized, then you would be the poster child, and if this doesn't prove how much of a pathetic loser you are, then quite frankly, I don't know what would. Those tweets were posted all the way back in 2021. We're in 2025 right now. We're halfway through the decade at this point, which means that Mapp held a grudge against Lorcan for 4 years because he got butthurt over being called out over unnecessarily insulting someone because they dared to like the modern incarnation of The Simpsons. The jokes pretty much write themselves. If I had a nickel for every time a brony held a grudge against someone for an extended period of time, I would have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. As dumb, stupid, and despicable as KP's crusade against Saberspark was, it was at least understandable because of the personal connection that they had. Map and Lorcan have absolutely no personal connection. Out of context, Simpsons Couch Gags is a random Twitter account in a sea of random Twitter accounts, and the fact that he held a grudge against him for that long over something that petty is absolutely ridiculous. Map should have done the sensible thing and let his petty little grudge against Lorcan go, but instead he thought it would be a better idea to call him a retard because he was still upset over something that happened 4 years ago. To say that Map's behavior is the equivalent of a spoiled toddler not getting their own way would be an understatement. The fact that he is 33 years old and still acts like this is absolutely appalling, which would probably explain why he decided to type out God's gift to humanity.
It's been about a year since this happened, so I think it's okay to speak up about this. If you honored this sack of disease upon her death, you deserve to be laughed at. She was a scumbucket CEO who slammed this website into a wall in ways that have ruined it beyond fixing. Whether it was sabotaging people's income, replacing actual human beings with bots who suck at their job, censoring anyone who tried to blow the whistle on the site's predator problem, deleting the comment sections of cartoon clips, paving the way for all sorts of screw-ups currently plaguing the site, such as AI slop, hiding the like-to-dislike bar to protect big-name corporations from criticism, or taking away people's ability to leave a simple comment just because it may have included some no-no words. I do feel bad about what happened to her son. I'm sure he was a nice guy who still had a lot of life ahead of him, but Susan's early grave was completely deserved for causing the irreparable state of YouTube.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
For those of you that don't know, Susan Wojcicki was the CEO of YouTube from 2014 to 2023. She died last year due to lung cancer, while her son Marco died of a drug overdose. To be honest with you, I don't even know what to say because I am so thoroughly disgusted. According to Map's fucked up logic, Marco didn't deserve to die because he was a good guy that had a lot of life left ahead of him. But Susan deserved to die because she implemented a ton of controversial changes to YouTube that he didn't agree with. Let me tell you, the audacity of this man utterly astounds me. You have to be the most chronically online person to type all of that out and post it publicly for everybody to see without any shame or remorse. At no point did he stop and say to himself, I shouldn't post this because it's disrespectful and insensitive and it makes me look like a complete and total asshole. At no point did it ever cross his mind. He decided to dance on Susan's grave because he was angry over the changes that she made to YouTube. Now look, let me be the first to say that Susan was not perfect as the CEO of YouTube. She implemented a lot of changes that I didn't personally agree with. And she made the lives of YouTubers a lot harder than it should have been. That should absolutely be acknowledged. But at the same time, we should also acknowledge that her death was a horrible tragedy that didn't have to happen. Both of these things can be true at the exact same time. If he had posted this when she was still alive, and he had left out the comment about her son Marco, nobody would have had a problem with it. As a matter of fact, most YouTubers would have agreed with his sentiment. But he chose the wrong time and place to put Susan on blast. And as a result, he looks like an insensitive. I'll just come right out and say it. That community post not only made him look insane and unhinged, but it made him look like a complete and total dickwad. Legitimately. He danced on the grave of the former CEO of YouTube because he's an insane and unhinged individual with a crippling internet addiction. What he did was absolutely disgusting and abhorrent, and it cannot be sugarcoated. I would say that Mapp should be ashamed of himself, but that would be implying that he has shame and empathy, and he has neither of those things. If you're wondering why people hate Mapp so much and why nobody wants anything to do with him, shit like that is exactly why. And if you're wondering how this can get any worse, then buckle up, my friends, because we're about to go on a very wild ride.
Remember when Disney used to have a slower release schedule with their movies? It allowed them to spread more time across their main films and give the staff more time to focus on a single project. But now notice how much faster Disney is releasing their bigger projects. 2019 alone saw the release of 4 live-action remakes, a mainline Star Wars movie, a Pixar movie, 3 MCU movies, and a movie from their animated canon. That's 10 major projects under the studio's belt in a single year. Now look at the number of major projects between 2023 and 2025. 1 Lucasfilm movie, 5 live-action remakes, 6 MCU movies, 3 Pixar movies, and 2 movies from their animated canon. And that's not including the content they made for a Disney Plus release. All of that together is 17 major projects in 2.5 years. That is a shitload of movies for Disney to put out in that amount of time. This is exactly why their songs aren't good, because they're not allowed to be. Disney is solely focused on putting out as much content as possible in a year to make the most money, and in the process there's no room for creativity and everything is horribly rushed.
While you're correct that Spider-Man Far From Home is a Marvel Studios production, it was released and distributed by Sony, and I know that because the Sony logo appears before the Columbia Pictures logo. And by the way, the live-action remake of Lady and the Tramp wasn't even theatrically released. It was a Disney Plus exclusive. You would have known this if you had bothered to do a simple Google or Wikipedia search beforehand, but even if you did, you still wouldn't have a good point, because the fact that Disney have released more live-action films than animated ones have absolutely no bearing on the quality of the songs in their most recent animated films. While animation is the heart and soul of the Walt Disney Company, Disney as a film studio cannot sustain itself on just animated movies alone. Animation is incredibly time-consuming to produce because every single thing needs to be built by hand by actual human beings. Which means that Disney can realistically only release 2 animated movies every year between Disney Animation and Pixar. This makes live-action films, by comparison, easier to produce, which means you can make a lot more of them. Marvel Studios, Lucasfilm, and Disney Live Action are completely different subsidiaries that are run by completely different people and have completely different goals. The only thing they have in common with Disney Animation and Pixar is the fact that they are all under the larger Disney umbrella, and that goes for 20th Century Studios and Searchlight Pictures as well. And besides, you listed far more valid reasons why the quality of the songs in Disney's most recent animated films have paled in comparison to what came before them.
They're not letting the songwriters and composers work on anything unique because they're not given the breathing room they used to have. And because they're forcing one person into the ground instead of getting a team, they can only get so much done within these deadlines. They're not even allowing Lin to make any objections. And because of how rushed these things are, it leads to all sorts of confusion during the production. We all know how horribly planned out Frozen 2 was, but that's nothing compared to what happened to Wish. You remember what I said earlier about how there was no communication between the songwriters and storytellers? Well, that's because they made the songs for the movie before they even started on the story. That explains why they don't match with the characters and the setting. This is the definition of having songs just for the sake of having songs and not making sure they fit the story. They literally just went up to the composers and said, make these songs. Alan Menken was shown the story and ideas surrounding the lantern scene from Tangled before he started working on it. That's what makes I See the Light a successful romantic ballad. The song was part of the writing process, not the other way around. But here, Disney just wanted the I Want song and the villain song, etc., and didn't think about how they would fit into the narrative. The demo version of At All Cost had an actual idea behind it with the movie's original pitch. It was a love ballad, a duet of two people falling in love and expressing their devotion for each other. It was supposed to be between Asha and the Starboy, and instead it was given to Asha and Magnifico singing about random wishes from the people of Rosas, which creates so many problems. There's no planning behind these songs because the songwriters and storytellers aren't given any room to communicate, and with all these problems combined, the formula chasing, the terrible lyrics, not fitting the story, not properly planning them out, it results in zero diversity between every single song. They all sound exactly the same with nothing distinguishing them from each other. And looking at the production timelines, you can easily see what happened. Disney didn't want to put the needed time into these movies and just wanted to release everything in a short period of time in order to make the most money in a single year. The standard used to be one Pixar movie and one movie from their animated canon. But now that they own all these things and have turned their business into a monopoly, they don't care about taking their time. They just want to make as many movies as possible to maximize profits.
Mapp often makes good points and valid critiques, and then he ruins it by saying something stupid or bringing up the most trivial and insignificant nonsense imaginable. The clips I just played are from a video titled What Disney Should Learn from K-Pop Demon Hunters, and towards the end of that video, he decided to unnecessarily call out a random Blue Sky user for the horrible crime of having a differing opinion.
And then their worthless dipshit white knights wonder why we act so resentful towards the garbage they've been putting out for the last 10 years.
If this person was truly white knighting, they would have been trashing Sony Animation while praising Disney Animation, but that's not what they were doing. They were simply giving their honest opinion in regards to K-pop Demon Hunters, and Mapp unnecessarily shit all over them as a result. Someone having a differing opinion than you is not a crime, nor is it a sin against humanity, and you really need to stop treating it as such. As someone that loves animation with every fiber of his being, even I have to say, these are just cartoons. It's not that serious, and it's not that deep. I will not begrudge you for liking K-pop Demon Hunters over Disney's most recent animated films, and I will not begrudge you for hating the most recent Smurfs movie, and the modern incarnation of The Simpsons, and The Last of Us Part 2, and the Star Wars sequel trilogy, and The Land Before Time 13, because those are your opinions and you're entitled to them. But other people also have opinions of their own, and it's something that you really need to learn how to respect. The sad part about Mapp's scorched earth approach towards anyone that has a differing opinion than him is that it often detracts from the good points that he makes.
One of the main plot points of the movie is how one of the demon hunters, Rumi, is revealed to be half demon, and eventually she crosses paths with Jinu, one of the demon boys. The two have to figure out a resolution to their conflict as they open up about their feelings for each other, and Rumi learns that Jinu is an evil, just trapped in his situation. Their demonic halves don't make up who they are, but they were also afraid of how they would be perceived by others because of the emotions they bottled up inside. There's also an interesting contrast with the situation. Rumi was a human trying to hide her demonic blood, while Jinu was a demon trying to hide his compassion and humanity. The point of the song is helping each other break out of the rut they feel about being trapped and not being able to be true to themselves. And by opening up to each other and simply being honest about it, they confess their love for each other. In the process, Jinu is able to come to terms with all the bad things he did while developing a genuine desire to atone, making his redemption at the end satisfying and fitting. And the feelings these two are going through are represented by some really powerful lyrics. Let the past be the past till it's weightless. You got a dark side, guess you're not the only one. Lyrics that highlight Rumi and Jinu accepting each other's identities and acknowledging their humanity. These are really strong words that symbolize the deeper meaning of the song with crisp patterns and how it fits the rest of the story. This is what At All Costs should have been for Wish, a romantic ballad that shows the growth of the lovers while highlighting their devotion for each other. And the message isn't a bunch of exposition on what life lesson they're trying to send. It explores Rumi's insecurities and how her friendship with Jinu helps her discover the right angle to approach her problem. It's like I said before, the song was part of the writing process and not the other way around. It was actually made with the narrative in mind. Free isn't just a love song, it's a song about breaking free from your doubts and moving past them to grow as a person, which is crucial to the development of Rumi and Jinu's characters. Every song in the movie feels like this. They serve a practical purpose in the plot and aren't just there to sound cool or give people something to listen to on their phones. Unlike Disney, who thinks just getting talented vocalists automatically makes them good. Even if the vocals are good, it doesn't change how horribly thought out they are with context from the story.
If you're a content creator, then you're well aware of the fact that no matter how many people like your videos, there are always going to be people that don't like them and will criticize you for literally any reason. This is something that we all have to accept as public figures on a public platform like YouTube. But this is Mapp we're talking about. Understanding that people will always criticize his videos goes over his head like Drax and metaphors.
Diaz, just stop. You are not smart or sophisticated enough to discuss this movie. You're just bringing it up because people use it to bash Disney, goddamn dick-riding bandwagoner. Who cares if people are using K-pop Demon Hunters as a comparison piece for Disney's recent failings? If you're easily offended by that, you're stupid and you need to find a new hobby outside of sucking the company's metaphorical dick. Also, it seems the dude decided to have a brain aneurysm because I dared call out his stupidity.
Just because someone says something negative about you doesn't mean that you always need to respond to it. Sometimes you're much better off not saying anything at all. So he thinks that you only made a video about K-pop Demon Hunters because you desperately wanted to jump on the Disney hate bandwagon. That's his opinion and he's entitled to it, and you obviously don't agree with it, so why does it matter what he thinks? Who cares? Who gives a shit? You could have ignored him entirely and went on with your day. But you chose not to, and this is exactly who Map is. He devotes so much of his time and energy getting into petty arguments with random internet nobodies because he desperately needs to win whatever argument that he's a part of because he thinks it'll make him intellectually superior to everyone else. And let me tell you, for someone that has that kind of mentality, the things that he does on a consistent basis are so unbelievably dumb that it genuinely makes me wonder how this guy even got a following in the first place. Of course, we all know how he got a following, but I genuinely believe that we made a mistake making this guy, of all people, horse famous. And I believe we made that mistake because of visual masterpieces like this.
Remember the tension and peril of the original where they actually had to think of a plan? Where the T-Rex was an actual threat and they had to combine all their unique techniques and abilities to defeat him? Fuck that shit. All you have to do now is just screech like a monkey and jump like a kangaroo. What a fucking load of horse shit. Oh, and speaking of shit, did I mention that there's actually toilet humor in this movie? Actual honest-to-God toilet humor in the land before time. They didn't even have the decency to not scrap at that bottom of the barrel for this one. They had to include fucking toilet humor in the land before time. Who greenlit this vile, grotesque piece of shit excuse for a sequel to a beloved classic? Who allowed this to see the light of day? Who? Fuck The Land Before Time 13, The Wisdom of Friends. Fuck the people who wrote it, fuck the people who directed it, and fuck Universal Studios for making it. Fuck them with an onslaught of aircraft missiles until their headquarters are a smoking pile of rubble.
Yes, I got angry. They took one of the most legendary works in the field of animation, a grounded, mature, and very adult movie about the natural cycle of life, and turned it into a baby show. At this point, I don't even have to say anything about Disney Star Wars, The Last of Joel, Part Abby, the Disney live-action Defilins, or that washed-up sketch comedian who protected a predator. These pussies are simply so terrified of negativity towards something they didn't even create that they will go out of their way to attack you for threatening the safety and purity of their online communities.
You're probably wondering why Map got so riled up over toilet humor in the 13th installment of a franchise that had long been relegated to the garbage bin of direct-to-video. It obviously had to be something so horrible, so disgusting, so repulsive, so unequivocally awful that he felt the need to go on an angry rant that would make the old incarnation of the mysterious Mr. Enter blush. So, without further ado, here's the toilet humor in question that got Map so riled up. That's it, that's the joke. That's what he was so upset over. While it's fair to criticize fart jokes as being cheap and lazy toilet humor, it's not worth being this upset over. At most, it's worth an eye roll and a really. Fart jokes are completely insignificant in the grand scheme of things, and it is not a sin to the medium of animation, but according to you, fart jokes are so serious that a film studio should be bombed and thousands of people should lose their lives as a result. If that doesn't prove how utterly repugnant Map's character is, then quite frankly, I don't know what would. This is a man that held his father's ashes in his hand and vowed that he wasn't going to do this shit anymore. And instead of honoring his father's memory by sticking to that vow, he has instead decided to relapse like an alcoholic and a drug addict rolled into one. Not only has he not learned from his past mistakes, but he has not changed at all. He has absolutely no desire to change, and he never will change. I think it's fair to say that he's a lost cause. And not only do I not respect him, I genuinely believe that he doesn't deserve to have a platform. I could go on a long tangent about how he should leave the internet altogether because it brings out his worst qualities, it makes him angry and miserable, and makes his life worse, but that would be pointless because he's not going to listen to me or anyone else. He is completely addicted to the internet. He's completely addicted to being an internet personality, and he's completely addicted to being right over the most trivial and insignificant nonsense on Earth, and that is not something that you can fix. You can't force a person to change if they really don't want to change, and as I said before, Missanthropony has absolutely no interest in changing. Mapp has burned his reputation to the ground, and he has made himself the target of people that will use him for their own personal amusement. I really don't want to see him become a lolcow, but at this point, it's practically inevitable. And when that happens, I will not feel sorry for him because he brought all of this on himself. And when some YouTuber that is way bigger than the both of us makes a video titled The Rise and Fall of MisAnthroPony in a few years from now, he will have nobody to blame but himself. Now that I've said all of this, he's officially going to make me a part of his hatedom. So I think it's appropriate to say, thank God for me. With all that being said, we have finally reached the end of the frustrating odyssey that is Missanthropony. This is ThatKidDouglas, aka the Unhero, signing out. Deuces. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and until next time, remember to stay frosty and keep it weird.